All right, guys, so here we are on whatever Tuesday, the 9th of February, and for now I'm closing. I'm not 100% sure it's done yet. I do intend to at least be watching in the afternoon, so if I do find anything that I like, there's a chance that this day will not be done. But at least for the time being, this right here is my result for the day, closing with $47.29 in profit for a net ROE of 1.87%. So now switching over to my trade log, the 4 trades from today are highlighted there at the bottom. I'll scroll over so you can see all of it. And if you'd like to take a closer look at these, I urge you to pause. I'm not going to be spending too much screen time on this document. So going back to my broker screen here, I'll run through the story of the day as quickly as possible here. I took a trade on BSQR that was potentially questionable both on the entry and the exit, booking a small loss. I then tried on KALV for a pretty big move. I was looking for about an $8 move, trying to risk off $42. My stop got blown past very quickly, all the way down to $40.50. And then on the way back up, I was able to stop out at just below 42. And then following that, I scaled into a pretty good position, pretty good trade. I'm overall happy with this on BSQR. I'm taking an add-on at a pretty good spot, even though I got filled a little high. And then my exits were good as well. However, I must point out that this exit right here at 858 was supposed to be at 878. And because the spreads were all over the place, I ended up getting caught in a flash down. I thought I was putting in the order just below 80, and then as I was clicking the button, I guess the ask dropped down to 59, and so I got filled at 58. So a bit of a bummer there. I lost 20 cents. Now, I saw that exit getting filled at 58 right away, and I was like, damn, that was supposed to be 20 cents higher. And it kind of messed with the rest of the way that I played this trade. I ended up exiting pretty early on the second half because the goal here was to have about 50 cents in between my add-on and my first exit, given how strong I thought the move was going to be. And then from there, I was going to try to hold the other piece to the other side of $9. So break of $9, maybe getting filled around 9.20 or something like that. But because I got filled low on that first exit, I ended up deciding to just take the profit at that time and ended up exiting just below 8.90. Now, about 10 minutes later, I got back involved once again with BSQR, taking a very small starter at 9.91 for looking for the break of $10, which I thought would lead to about a $1.50 move. And on this one, I was initially planning to wait until about 10:50 to take the add-on, but because my entry was premature, I got in what I thought was going to be the break of $10. And as you can see on the 1-minute chart here, it did not break. This is my entry candle right here. We tapped 9.99 and then came all the way back down to 9.40 on the next candle. However, that surge up to $10 was a high volume surge. The pullback was a low volume pullback. And then coming off of that, we had a green candle going back up to 10, which was a very high volume candle. So I reset my plan to say, okay, how about I'm just going to take the add-on right at $10 after the break of $10 and then ride it up to a target of 11. And I got a little bit of live video on this one. I started recording following my entry. I'm not sure exactly how long after, but in any case, you'll be able to see why I did not take the add-on. I was looking at this seller at $10, getting ready for it to break. I had my finger on the trigger, and then bam, it just goes through $10 and ends up squeezing into a halt. And it was 60 cents higher than $10, so that really threw my plan off. And although I thought about adding once we came back to test that $10 level, like maybe taking 10.20 or something, I decided against all those plans, and I decided to just play my starter on its own, which definitely reduces the profit-loss ratio that I got out of this. But the move that I was expecting did take place, and it took place cleanly, and I ended up escaping without issue just below $11, getting filled at $10.94. And hey, what do you know? In 4 minutes and 7 seconds, I actually managed to cover all of my trades, the details thereof. So that's got to be a first in this account. And I ran through it for a reason in this recap. There are a lot of things that I at least want to talk a little bit about, even though I'm going to have to make separate videos for them. It is important to note a few things here. And the first thing we're going to talk about is my hotkey setup, because that changed almost entirely over the weekend, like the entire hotkey setup. I think there were like 3 or 4 hotkeys that I didn't make adjustments to. So the evidence of one of my changes is right here on the position size. You can tell my position sizes are significantly lower than the already low level that they were at. And mainly that was me playing it safe with a new hotkey setup. I didn't really extensively test this setup in the simulator, even though I did have some sim trades yesterday to make sure everything was okay. To use it in a live setting with only 1 day's worth of testing is not something I would normally do. So I decided that instead of taking the entire day off, I'm just going to downsize the positions and continue trading as I usually would. So here's an updated view of my hotkey setup, and one of the changes I made was I extended the offset of most of my keys, both sell and buy keys. I increased the offset from either 1 or 2 cents to either 2 or 5 cents. And with the offset, what I'm trying to do there is conquer the problem of failed fills, because you may have noticed in previous recaps, especially recently, I missed out on a lot of important parts of trades because my offset was not big enough. If I was trading, let's say, like a $10 or $15 stock, the offset that I would be using for a $1 stock definitely isn't going to get filled with any kind of consistency. But the most important change that I made was in my buy orders, my go-to entry keys. And previously, those were for buying a set number of shares. And over the weekend, after having analyzed very deeply my results so far and looking at all the nuances and trying to find minor details that were causing me problems, one of the things I came up with is that my position sizes were inconsistent in that they did not match the strength of the setup. And that the share size, the situation with my share size on my hotkeys was causing me to lose profit on winners in a lot of cases and to increase losses on losers. And obviously that's undesirable. And another thing that I spent a really long time thinking about over the weekend was whether or not I really want to make any big changes to the way that I'm approaching the situation. Because there are a couple of things in my results that have been bugging me for a while, and I'm struggling quite a bit with the style that I'm trying to go with here. And I can't get into why I'm going with that style. It's way too big of a story. But the important thing here is that it's the value of me making this style work is literally unlimited. And so I'm really interested in making it work. And like I mentioned in a few previous recaps, I wasn't planning on making any major changes to the way I'm approaching this account until the moment, if it happened, where my balance got down to 2,000 from the starting point of 2,750 or whatever. That was the line in the sand where I wasn't really planning on making any big changes until then. But having seen all the trouble that I've been having and looking at this account and comparing it to other ones and seeing that this one is unfolding a lot less cleanly than other ones, even though the damage has been a lot smaller in this one than other ones, I do feel like there's a lot of room for improvement in the interim. I think there are things that I could be doing that could improve my results in multiple ways, and they could improve my results without me having to make any of those big changes early. Like I said, my line in the sand was 2,000, and I really don't want to deviate from that plan because it's important that the bigger parts of the plan stay intact. And so that's what I spent my weekend doing, is analyzing like what could I do to, in the meantime, try to improve this. And right now I'm playing with a lot of different things. I'm going to be showing more in separate videos. I know I keep saying that. But discipline checklist is something I'm actively trying to refine right now. I'm trying to turn it into a point system. Right now it's sitting at a stage of where it's a yes or no type thing. It's like a binary result of I'm either yes, I'm good to trade, or no, I'm not good to trade. And I feel like that current system is costing me inactive days, and it's costing me missed opportunities. And on the days when I'm not ready and I kind of let myself go a little bit, then that's when the big red days happen. And obviously the cost of that is pretty high as well. So what I'm trying to develop right now is a points-based system where there are going to be a variety of different sets of rules attached to my score on my discipline checklist. And I'm at war with myself right now. I keep point and counterpointing my way into no changes basically, because I do kind of have a tendency to overdevelop things and then I have to pull back. And if I were to overdevelop this and install too many rules, then it could throw off the rest of the flow of my plan, my bigger plan with this account. But one thing that I did notice when on the weekend I rewatched all my recaps from this account, I reread all my notes that I have on my hard drive, looked at basically all the material attached to this account, and I compared some of it at least to some previous accounts. Mainly the failures is what I was looking at. And one of the things I really think, like I keep saying and I keep not listening to, is trying to hunt the 5 minute setups. You know, in the last couple days, maybe the last six active days, I've had a tremendous amount of trouble with trying to avoid being a hyperactive trader, trying to avoid the scalps and all that stuff. And you've heard me talk about it over and over. And yet I still continue to be going for these moves. And I thought, this can't continue. Like, I can merge styles like this when I have a big balance. Yes, I can take a couple of scalps in between home runs. But in a situation like this, I don't feel that's mentally healthy. And I'm having a lot of trouble. I think I've, in fact, conclusively proven that I'm unable to mix styles successfully anyway at this equity level. So I'm not going to get too into it here, but I do want to point out that yesterday I was inactive. I was at my desk. I was present. My checklist went fine. I was ready to trade, and I felt great. And the big one that I was looking at pre-market, the one that I thought was going to be the big winner, was OCGN. And it broke a pattern pre-market that I wasn't happy with, and I thought about taking an entry at like 9:15 a.m., and I was reminded of a few days prior when I did get involved, and it led to a pointless loss. And so with OCGN on Monday, I decided, no, I'm just not going to touch this. I'm going to wait for the bell. And even then, I'm going to look for much later after the bell. I want to see chart develop, and I want to see safe setups. And what I saw at the bell, well, I'll cut in the video here so you can take a look at this ridiculousness. Because, I mean, it's absolutely unreadable. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to show it in the clip here, but there was one point where I opened up my level 2 settings and I was checking to see if I had less flicker, the option less flicker selected, because as you can see, I mean, the flicker is ridiculous. You can't read any of it. None of it is readable. And so I decided to just sit on my hands. Even though it ran up very high, I sat on my hands. And here today on AUVI, it was almost the same situation where pre-market I was like, yes, this is the one that I want to pay the most attention to. This was absolutely my top watch. And the way that it ended up squeezing was just not the way that I was ready to handle. And so I left it completely alone. And I don't want to get into it. There was a spot here, breaking 12 right here up on the 1 minute chart, where I did think about taking a starter. I would have had to risk something like $2.50 per share in order to take that entry. And I didn't really feel that the reward potential was worth it. So I left it alone. And yeah, I left a potentially big winner on the table today, and I'm perfectly okay with that, because guess what? The things that I did find, they worked out a lot better, and I even took 2 losses. I started the day with 2 losses, one of which was pretty far outside of my comfort zone, my normal range, with the trade on KALV, which was a very high price range compared to usual, and it ended up, resulting in a loss. But even that one I don't feel bad about, because that was a 5 minute setup at the time, and I felt good about it. Okay, this is a flag. This is what I'm looking for. And so I came into yesterday, just like today, talking to myself, basically saying 5 minute flags only, 5 minute flags only. I'd be making breakfast, and I'd have a decision to make with my breakfast, like, oh, am I having beans today or not? And I'd be like, oh, well, beans are the decision for a guy who's, taking 5 minute flags. And I would just crack jokes. And this is one of the ways that I get this into my mind. And I'm going to continue all night, all week. I plan on repeating this to myself all the time. 5 minute flags. Because that's what I feel that I have the best potential of making this style work with, is that setup. It's the one where I feel I have the most experience. And most importantly, it's the one which generally resolves the cleanest. And that's what I really need right now, is to just book these small wins. 1%, 2% per day. That's fine. So all this is to say that I feel the adjustments that I've made so far were very well considered, and I think they're already showing to be fruitful. And I intend to continue developing some of the things I mentioned behind the scenes. Another thing that I'm looking at right now is my daily results and trade log, especially the trade log. I'm thinking about switching to a more recent version with more stats, more information. That one's still up in the air right now. I'm not 100% sure, but the point is here that I feel really good about how I'm playing this week so far. I feel the most comfortable I have in this account so far, and there are a lot of things ticking in the right direction at present, especially coming off of the weekend that I had and the amount of effort that I put into really picking apart the results and analyzing them with a really fresh mind, but then also comparing them to previous experiences. And I think between those two acts, I think I've really come up with a good baseline for things I should be doing. And so going forward, there's going to be a lot of focus looking at stuff like that and trying to build on the successes that I've already had. And one of the things I've been thinking about a lot too, that's the one I'll close on, it's probably one of the most important, is to be around in the afternoon. That's something that I've never actually done before with any kind of consistency. I'm generally somebody who wants to just make the money in the morning and then go enjoy the rest of the day. That's the point of this freedom, is to be able to have the rest of the day. But in this particular case, in this very specific instance, I think it would be a good idea for me to take a long break in between the morning and the afternoon, but then to generally be around for power hour. Because I did that yesterday with practicing my hotkeys, my new hotkeys. I took a few sim trades, and it went pretty well. And I think the afternoon is something I've been overlooking for too long. And even though I don't want to be really educating myself using this account, I do have a simulator available, so I can use that if I feel the need. And that's just one of many things that I'm looking at going forward. So I'm going to be letting you guys know if I make any other changes like this. And for big ones, I will make separate videos. I'm currently working on those projects right now, especially for hotkeys and discipline checklists. Those are the two priorities right now. And so my focus right now is to continue being picky. I was really picky today. There was that first trade on BSQR. You could have argued that I got in no man's land. I should have either waited for the break or bought against support. I did neither, and I ended up stopping out too early. I basically sold the bottom of the move and took a loss for no reason. That's a mistake I made today. But because I was disciplined and because I paid attention to the right setups, my winners easily conquered my two losers. Even though I have 50% accuracy, I'm still closing with a decent day of almost 2%. So anyway, that's going to be it for me. I'm kind of sick of making this video already. It's 12:30 right now, and it's almost time for the afternoon session. So hopefully I produce some more green or break even for the rest of the day, but whatever the case, I hope that any trades I take don't make me want to talk about them for too long.